I
You are so
know.
weird.
Sorry. It's kind of a day.
Yeah. Well, it's very fitting for the theme.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's the theme, right? So tell us a theme. Walk us in.
yeah, and we're back.
Right.
Hi, everyone. This is Faith in the Real World. I am Matthew TD, and as
I'm
always,
Mark TD, pastor at St. John's.
yes. And we're in a good mood because
Yeah, we've had too
today's.
much caffeine today.
Well, I don't drink caffeine, so I don't know what's wrong with me.
You're just normally that way. Anyway, sorry. Today's
Yeah,
theme.
today's theme is humor in the church. Where do we use humor to preach the gospel? How do we do it? Does it have a place in the church? Is it disrespectful? Is it not? We both use humor from a marketing
No,
standpoint.
neither of us
Oh,
ever. No, we never ever use humor
then I don't know
or
what I'm doing.
sarcasm.
I don't know what I'm doing then.
No, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
that's
right.
shameful.
Yeah.
No. Yes, of course we use humor. And we need to use humor. And there's things in the Bible that are funny. So we're going to talk about those things today. And we one of the things that we should say is we invite your comments. So if you're watching this or listening to this,
Or a live stream.
yeah, correct.
That's where we need it the most. People
we
don't do that.
we really need, especially the live stream of our worship service, but on these I was going to say TED Talks. No, no,
Church talks.
on these
Thomas
podcasts.
talks.
Yeah, right. Give us comments or let us know if there's a subject that you'd like us to cover, or if there's a guest speaker that we could bring in an interview, or we'd love to hear from you. And so please do that. Like, share, save, comment. Love these things, and we click and subscribe too. It really helps us a lot.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about season 3, what we could do next.
Great.
So please send your ideas in. So yeah, so from a marketing standpoint, I use humor in videos a lot, specifically with reels and shorts, TikToks even, and I use memes a lot, like CapCut, and that's our most popular stuff.
Right.
Yeah, because traditionally when you just do services or you're promoting stuff, that gets awareness, but not the numbers you would want.
Right. And so your tactic then, when you do a short, you take a little bit of the worship service or a little clip of an event, right?
Mhm.
And then how do you formulate that, Matthew? So how do what's a meme, for example? Why would we use that?
But people love to laugh. People,
Right.
pe- Social media has been popular because of memes in general. Because I grew up with Vine. That in high school, that was the platform.
Vine. I
Yeah.
forgot all about Vine. What were they, like 30-second clips or
Yeah,
something like that?
or 7-second clips. Not even.
7 seconds.
That's all it took.
Wow.
Yeah, and people thought it was hilarious, and careers exploded just from that, and they're still going to this day.
Yeah.
But they were just funny. It was a good time. There were no ads. There was no business brand behind it. Not really. And it was just a good time, and people still love that kind of stuff.
Right. And so you take that ad,
Mhm.
you take that idea, and then like for our recent barbecue thing, you've clipped in there a Monsters Inc. character,
Mhm.
right? Who the name neither of us can remember the guy's name, but it's the big
The-
blue furry guy.
Yeah, we failed you, Disney fans. We're sorry.
So yeah, sorry. Yeah, that thing. But and then tell us what you did with it.
Yeah, so we recently had a barbecue. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the video, but it's the blue character. He runs up to the window and he's reacting to many different faces to what's going on behind it. And I put in photos of the barbecue, like the actual food, and I catered it to our food lovers. So who doesn't love ribs with barbecue sauce or
Right on.
cornbread muffins from Famous Dave's?
Right, exactly. And so that became the meme to catch people's attention to our event, which was this barbecue cook-off deal that we just did recently. And it's how many views did we have in that? It was
It was like 1,600 over 1,600, but our most popular one like that is a clip from Parks and Rec.
right. The guy in
It's a
the
video
chair.
of Ron Swanson in his circle desk. He's avoiding that woman who's trying to talk to him, and the caption was me avoiding Satan like a Karen.
Right.
And that exploded. The comments were hilarious.
Very funny.
We were
actually.
sitting in your office one day laughing at it.
Yep.
It was one was saying she made a whole backstory, and she was saying like the woman discovered that the water was not up to her standards, and she's trying to sue the parks department because of it.
Yeah, it was just totally off our topic, right?
Yeah,
But it
yeah,
was,
it was.
but it created in that moment. What was really interesting is that because it was a funny clip of a funny show, and Matthew superimposed our information into it, and so we had this religious sort of connection. That online chat group sort of became this community. Can we even say that?
Yeah.
And so it created. I mean, it had over 15,000 views, and it had
Yeah,
several
yeah,
hundred.
Yeah, the numbers are right here. It says that 11 people commented, but They were really impressive comments, well drawn out comments
Yeah,
too.
they were not little pithy sayings. They
Yeah.
were whole, like you said, that woman created a backstory for the
Yeah.
for why that woman was trying to complain, and
Mhm.
all these comments. But it suddenly became a conversation online, and we've had another one where you flagged it for me, and so we looked at it, and somebody was upset that we took something that was super holy and made it like the have it being funny made it seem flip,
Hmm.
like we weren't taking it seriously just
It
because it was
that
funny.
that
Remember that?
I could be wrong, but I think that was the one around Easter time.
Good Friday. Yep.
Like, or not well, not Good Friday. It was the Easter one I made because
Oh, could have been.
I don't
Yeah.
do it for Good Friday not anymore because yes, that was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
My apologies.
You're right. Well, and that's our learning process. I
Mhm.
mean, we're going to make mistakes. And that's one of the things about humor that is dangerous because not everybody thinks what is funny. And that's what's hard, right? So if
Yeah.
I'm in the pulpit and there's something that happens in the scriptures, like, for example, one of the things in the Bible, one thing that is truly, truly funny, and they highlight this in the TV show of The Chosen. They're in Jesus has been crucified. He's dead. They've buried him. And the women show up and they say, "We've seen the Lord." And they're like, "Yeah, you're out of your minds." And they're like, "No, no, really. He's been raised." And two disciples get up and they start running to the tomb. And John, the gospel writer of John, records that the disciple John outran Peter and got there first. Now, wouldn't you love to be known for all eternity as the slower runner, right? I mean, that's just why do they include that? Nobody knows. But it's Peter gets up first and bolts out the door, and John follows him, but John outruns him. And so in the movie, the TV show, the series of The Chosen, there's at least two occasions when the disciple John or somebody else makes a comment about Peter, like Andrew asks Peter, "Well, what are you going to do next time?" And he go, "Oh, I just run." And Andrew says, "Oh, well, that'll work out well for you." Right? It's just this dry sense of humor. And the beauty of it is that when it is funny and intended to be funny without making fun really of anybody else, right? You can't be mean. That's not funny. But there's irony, there's all these different uses of humor. They're great tools to hook a person in so that you want to hear more.
Yeah.
You think of all the Christian comics, the place called the Dry Bar in Utah, where there's all of the humor there is clean. There's no sexual innuendos. There's no drinking jokes or smoking jokes. It's just stand-up humor that's anybody can hear.
Mm.
So if my grandson's sitting on my lap, I could watch a reel because it's got the Dry Bar logo. Boom, I know it's going to be funny. Most of them are funny. And then I know, but the humor will be used as a tool.
Yeah.
And I think it's super duper important. And that's why I like your memes, because the other thing about it is that there's so often our Christian faith, especially in the Lutheran world, I'm going to throw ourselves under the bus here a second. I keep saying that we're German engineered. We've got everything sort of, all of our doctrines are extremely thorough. We've thought through all these things over the last 500 years. And sometimes in order to maintain the doctrinal purity, quote unquote, boy, we get to be really dry. I mean, it's good night.
And very robotic too.
Robotic,
Be like,
good word.
I am a holy man. No, we
Yeah,
don't want that.
exactly.
We're not like that. No.
No, and it takes the humanity out of it, any sense of vulnerability with it. It just doesn't work. I remember my very first parish, northern Minnesota, little village of Vining. I was at the Vining Church, and I had to come down, and they had given me this slip before the service of all of the things that the committees and whatever needed to highlight. Well, and I'm nervous, and and I've been there about 6 months, and I was really exhausted because Connie was on bed rest, or maybe the babies had been born. But I was really pooped, and that day I was so tang-tungled. I couldn't say anything right, and there was starting at the beginning of the service. I missed like the opening greeting, started right in with the Kyrie, and because I missed that, she didn't give me the note, and so I looked over at Mary at the piano, and she's like, "Well, what? Well, I need my note." She says, well, there's a thing. Oh my goodness, I missed the thing. So then I say the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and I do the opening litany thing. Then she gives me the note, and then everybody started to laugh because they knew what had happened, that I blew it. So now, first mistake out. Then there's another one. Then there's another, and it just kept coming. And now I'm inside. I'm starting to really churn with my insecurities, and at the end of the service, I go to do the announcements. And at the announcements, front row is their choir director, and the front 2 rows is the choir. And I start in on these announcements, and nothing is coming out of my mouth right. I don't know if I had a little dry mouth or what the heck was going on, but nothing was coming out right. And I was saying things completely wrong, and it just caught the funny bone of the whole congregation, and they just started to laugh. I put my arms down like this, and I just slumped like this. And Kay Thorson, the choir director, stands up. She comes to the front. She takes the slip. She makes the announcements for me. And then with her arm around me like this, and she says, Pastor Mark, it's not perfection that makes us love you. It's moments like this.
Aww.
And it's your imperfections that make you human. And that did 2 things for me. One, I don't have to be in front somebody I'm not. That was freedom for me. I can be me, and I'm going to make verbal miscues, and I'm going to say malapropisms, or however you say that word, and where you say a wrong word for the wrong thing, and I'm going to do that. That's who I am. The second thing is that I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Mm.
And if I make a mistake, I can turn that to be funny, and then the people who look like this will feel like they've missed it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So humor can be a huge tool, and it can be a marvelous way of catching people and keeping their attention. But it also, it just makes the very liturgical service that we do, it keeps it buoyant. And it's not so stodgy and stoic and firm and whatever. Have you ever seen humor used poorly, or have you ever seen people react to a joke and they're like, "God, I didn't come here to laugh. I came here to be with God." Have you ever had that experience?
Not in the real world, but I get comments all the time that say I'm being disrespectful. Like I said, I referenced before.
Oh, because of the memes, you mean?
Yeah, the memes especially. Like there's a Easter reel I mentioned before. It's Kendrick Lamar, his Super Bowl halftime show, and it's an animation of him starting the song "Not Like Us."
Oh, his
and
Super Bowl dance.
Yeah, his Super Bowl dance, and he's marching out of Jesus' tomb, and it was. I'm saying that this is what Jesus was like when he was being risen from the dead. He's
Right.
like, I won, Drake. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And people were lots of people loved it.
Yeah.
Lots of people did, and some were like, "This is disrespectful. You're using a disrespectful song to promote the resurrection," and I thought it was funny, and lots of other people did, and some people defended me too online, which was very, very cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
The people were like, "Dude, relax.
Yeah.
This is funny," and I think, and I've always believed this, or not always, but a long time I have. If you cannot laugh at your own faith, bless you. If you cannot laugh at your own faith, you're not a true follower of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you have to. Because if you're able to laugh at it, in a way, it tells me you're open to other interpretations, new ideas. You're more flexible with it.
You're playful.
It's not. Yeah, it's not rigid and stale.
Interesting.
Like you're not like, you must do it like this. You have to treat it like this. You have to act this way. That's not what Jesus wants.
I agree with that.
Like he wants to follow certain rules, sure, but not be super rigid about it.
No, I love that, Matthew. So when I was at another parish, there was a time where I was an associate pastor, and we were new to the congregation, and I had, in the middle of a sermon, it led right into this sort of joke, and I think the joke was, well, the joke is something like this. Well, the father sits down with his child and says, "Well, do you know who's coming for Easter? Do you know who it is?"
Mm-hmm.
And the child goes, "No, I don't know who's coming." "Well, he's really hairy, and he's got great big hairy ears, and he kind of hops around a little bit." And the child goes, "Oh, is it Uncle Dan?" Right? I love that joke.
That's my dad.
That's right. "Is it Uncle Dan?" And of course, it's supposed to be the Easter Bunny. That's what the dad was hoping the child would say. And the kid said, "Oh, is it Uncle Dan with the hairy ears?" And
wait, was that me?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
No, it was actually a clip of a sermon from a pastor from like in the 50s.
Oh, so it's a different Dan.
It was Uncle Bruce or somebody. I just
Oh.
literalist. Anyway, but it was this joke about, he's trying to have the kid describe the the Easter Bunny, and the kid thinks the description of being hairy and long ears that are full of hair. And, oh, that's Uncle Bruce. I told that story in a joke, or that joke in a sermon, and the senior pastor came into my office Monday morning, closed the door, and he said, I was handed this note. And I looked at the note, and I could recognize whose handwriting it was. And the note said, the pulpit's not a stand-up microphone. Clean it up. That person didn't come to me with that. He went to my supervisor with that. And my supervisor reprimanded me the next morning for having a joke inside a sermon.
Just one joke.
One joke. And that was it. It was not dirty. It was not irreverent. It was a funny anecdote, and it just didn't pass. And my sadness was, I've learned, I'll say it this way. I've learned to say, you can read the mood or the personality or the system of a congregation based on how do they respond to humor. Whether if I'm doing an announcement and I crack a joke, or if it's in the pulpit and I crack a joke. Some systems don't and can't accept humor because of the corporate mindset. Like if the whole church is just in a depression, humor doesn't work because it just doesn't register. On the other hand, when the system of the congregation is healthy and they are hope-filled for the future, you're starting with a system that can tolerate joy, and then humor is just an amazing tool. So that there's an art form of understanding when can you use it, when can you not. Like, you don't really want to tell, especially at a funeral I'm presiding at of a person I don't know. I'm not telling any jokes. There's no way, because it could be heard as completely, inappropriate or mean even. But if somebody gets up who knows the guy really, really well and does a eulogy, I wouldn't stop them from making a joke. I would just ask them to make sure it's a clean joke that all ears could hear, right? So humor is really important. In fact, there's even this book by Carl and Rolf Jacobson called Divine Humor, and he talks about how the Bible uses humor. And there's all kinds of things. Some of them we would consider completely irreverent. I mean, seriously, that are just, we don't read them on Sunday mornings. Because they're just unbelievably graphic. Some of them are just so obtuse, I wouldn't know what to do with it. Like one of the prophets is accosted by the children of the village, and they call him Baldy, and he gets offended for being called Baldy, and so he has a bear maul the children. I mean, yeah, it's in there. The question is, why is that in there, and what would you preach on that? I have no idea.
Don't mess with bears or people with access to bears.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so many things. Or this Balaam's donkey, right? The donkey can see that there's a warrior angel right in front of him, and that donkey's not moving. No way. And so he gets off and he beats the donkey, and then the donkey says, "What are you beating me for?" Why is that? The donkey starts talking to him. And it's just this amazing spot of these weird things, but
that's in the Bible?
That's in the Bible. Yep. It's called Balaam's donkey, Balaam's ass. There's this beautiful moment in there. And then, these other things like Peter forever being the last person there, but and being immortalized as a slow runner. And the ultimate beautiful joke is placed on death. The joke is on death. So we have Jesus born in a manger, which is literally a feed trough for animals. Right? God incarnate was placed in a feed trough. Completely vulnerable. As a human baby, no human baby can take care of the baby's self. So God is completely vulnerable. What? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then that child grows up and has to learn how to take care of himself. And Mary has to teach God how to go to the bathroom, right? And potty training and all these very human, earthy things that we don't think about, but it had to have happened. And then we go through this whole thing, and then we learn that this is God in human form, the Word of God made flesh, who is moved into the neighborhood, says the scriptures, right? The verb is skene. So it's literally pitched his tent, boom, right in your backyard. And what? God's living in a tent again, right? So the tabernacle was originally a tent, and then all of these things, you start painting the picture, it's just ridiculous. Beautifully holy ridiculousness that God is doing all of these things for us so that we know that God knows what it is to be finite and frail and vulnerable and hurt and sad. But we also know that when the disciples meet Jesus after the resurrection, and he pops into the room. Now picture the scene, right? So you have, they are absolutely fearful for the Jewish authorities, right? The police of the town. And they're absolutely fearful that what has just now happened to their master is going to happen to them. And Jesus suddenly appears in the room. Doesn't walk, doesn't knock on the door. He just, boop, pops into the room. I would have gone through the wall. I mean, I just, boom, gone. It would have freaked me out. But there he is. Boop, Jesus shows up, and he says to them, peace be with you. Now, and then he breathes on them, and it says, as the Father has sent me, so now I send you. Whatever you forgive in heaven, whatever you forgive is forgiven in heaven. Whatever you retain is not forgiven. But Thomas doesn't believe him. He wasn't there. And so he comes in, and Thomas says, unless I put my fingers in the marks of his hands, my hand in his side, you're not going to pull anything over on me, right? No way. No,
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe it. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then next day, Jesus pops into the room and says to Thomas, okay, put your hands here, smarty. Put your hand. Go ahead. Put it right at my side. Go ahead. Knock yourself out. And then in that moment, when it's sort of this joke being played on Thomas, this beautiful saint, sometimes referred to as the twin, and we don't know why that was, but Didymus was his name, Didymus, Thomas the twin. But it's also how is he famously known as?
The doubter.
The doubting Thomas is the first one to confess Jesus' real identity in all of the scriptures when he says, put your hands here, see my side. Thomas says, my Lord and my God. He gets it right. And that is a moment, if you do not understand that the disciples in that moment are so filled with joy that their Savior, their Rabbi, their God is alive, that they had to have been sitting there in absolute glee. And the ultimate joke now is not them. They weren't the fools for following this Jesus around the countryside for 3 years. The ultimate joke is played on death and sin and the power of the devil. It's the best, most wonderful punchline that's ever been done, ever. And if we can't tell that story and giggle about it in absolute gratitude, we're missing the point, right? I mean, it kind of goes to your thing. We've got to be able to laugh, not necessarily at our faith, but we need to laugh because of our faith. And that, to me, is just effervescent. And I just love you kind of knowing that God created us to laugh, created us to feel joy and effervescence with our faith too. Then it frees us to go into the scriptures and read it with a totally different tone of voice. And so you come to the story of Nicodemus, for example, in the John chapter 3. Nicodemus comes to Jesus in the middle of the night. And in John's gospel, by the way, it uses light and dark all the time. So you have this, whenever somebody is doubting or it's sad, John will say, and it was night. And when something is hope-filled, he'll start with, and the next morning, and then it goes through this amazing story or a miracle or a teaching of Jesus or whatever, and it was day. And so we have being light or noon or where things are hope-filled. So Nicodemus comes to Jesus in the middle of the night when it is absolutely dark, and he's just, how does this work? What do you mean talking about? What do you mean that I must be born from above? What the heck does that mean? Or born again? What do I have to re-enter my mother's womb? That has to be sarcasm, because he is the teacher of teachers. That has to be sarcasm. And if we're looking at scriptures through the lens that humor is possible, what are you talking about? How can these things be? He says, Jesus says, are you a teacher of Israel, and yet you don't understand these things? Wow, right?
Yeah.
And then he says, very truly I tell you, we speak of what we know. We've told you about earthly things, and you don't believe. If I teach you about heavenly things, how are you going to believe that? It's this amazing thing. And he says, no, look, this is the context for the big verse. So he says, no one has ascended into heaven except the one who has descended from heaven, the Son of Man. And just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. that whoever believes in him may have eternal life. And then listen, here's the next
I'm
word.
listening. Yeah.
For God so loved the world, not Israelis, not the Jews, not for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, so that everyone who believes in him may not perish but have eternal life. And here's the punchline. Indeed, God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. That's the most beautiful thing in the world. And you can imagine Nicodemus going, what now? Because Nicodemus is filled with messages that he is of the promised people, that the Messiah will come for them. And Jesus is saying, yes, and he just explodes this whole thing. And if we read that without humor, it's, come on, Nicodemus, what's wrong with you? Get it straight. If you read it with a little bit of a sense of humor, you understand that Jesus is kind of poking him. Come on, you're a rabbi and you don't understand these things. You're a teacher of rabbis, and come on. Listen, if I teach about earthly things, you're not going to understand. How will you understand if I teach about heavenly things? It's beautiful. It's got to be sarcasm. And I think if it is sarcasm, it opens the door for us to take very seriously, even more seriously, what's being said, because Jesus is using humor, sarcasm, those tools to hook disciples.
Yeah.
And if he's doing it, then certainly we should. And plus, as a sinner, finite, frail being, we're funny.
Yeah.
So why not let ourselves go, and just...
Yeah, that it kind of brings me to another example like that where it's the Monty Python group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they poke up religion all the time, but it's not like they're not like really trying to offend people. They're just having fun with it. They're teasing it a bit. Like sometimes they go too far, absolutely.
For sure. For sure. And we do know that the Monty Pythons did that stuff to show the lunacy of Christianity.
Yeah.
Right. They are trying to undermine
the hierarchy of the church mainly. Of the Catholic faith.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but like I was watching the documentary on Netflix of their story, and they talked about when they were making Life of Brian and it hit theaters. They actually got in trouble by the Catholic Church.
A lot of them.
Yeah, but like it was actually at the point where they were on. It was John Cleese and I think Eric Idle on TV with two cardinals,
right?
And they were debating each other
on
if this was wrong, if it was not, and
they were making the case that we're making now.
Yeah, exactly. And the two actors, they destroyed the Cardinals.
They did. Yeah.
They were both like, guys, you're tripping. You're being ridiculous.
Right.
You do not have to be this rigid, this by the book. You can still practice the gospel and still poke at it.
That's exactly
sometimes.
Right. Yeah. The other thing is, if we don't, another thing I love about this TV series, The Chosen, and hopefully you've heard that podcast that we did on that, is that those disciples, if we don't allow ourselves to see and read the scriptures with the lens of humor, then the disciples walk around frowning all the time, and it's about getting their faith correct, and it's about information, facts. It's about,
is it real?
Is it real or not real? Is it, it's just this sort of binary deal. It's right or it's wrong. Is it right or it's wrong? It's correct or it's not. It's a truth or it's a myth or a falsity.
This person should die, not this person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But these were men, real human beings. Peter was married. We know that there was all these backstories of the disciples we don't have, and surely, if Jesus is an old sourpuss walking around, I mean, just completely dour, right? Looks like Henry the Eagle, right? Or, I mean, if Jesus is this unlovable human being that is, or very serious, sober man all the time, who's he going to draw to that? There's something unbelievably charismatic about Jesus of Nazareth that allows these people to want to be around him, and also for what he says. It's not just what he says. It's about who he is, because he's God. And if Jesus is God, and he is, we will be drawn to him like a moth to light.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, there's something beautiful and holy about laughing at ourselves and laughing at the lunacy of our proclamation, because who would really believe Who would actually believe that the forgiveness of my sins is possible in this life? That I can live a new life right now because of the power of the one who has been raised.
Mm.
I mean, that's just nuts, but it's true.
Yeah.
And thanks be to God for that, because it makes me laugh with joy and relief. And if we're too serious about it, if we stay in our German engineered square box, we'll just bore people to death. And I think that one of the greatest sins the church can do is bore people with the gospel of Christ. We can't do it. On the other hand, I don't want everything to be flashy entertainment. Otherwise, we become, mega church with lights, cameras, actions, and we lose the centrality of the relationship that God is trying to make manifest with every single human being. And then that allows us to have a holy relationship with another human being. And then we create community, and ultimately we become church. And the old language is that we become Corpus Christi in Latin, right? We become the body of Christ, in literally flesh and blood of Jesus, here in Lower Tangletown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it's just miraculous what God is doing through us together, in person or online. We're becoming a community that we could never become otherwise.
Yeah.
And that should make us giggle. It should make us laugh with hope and glee. That's just it.
And I know you say you didn't want to be, and that we shouldn't be like mega churches, but I will say you flying off in a harness in the ceiling would be a sight to behold. that would be kind of good.
It's never happening. I hate heights. No, it's not happening. No.
All right,
No.
but what are some of the best examples and places to find God having humor, like where it could draw people to the light, as you said, like is it in the Bible or is it in like other programs or pastors preaching? Like there was an Irish preacher you told me about too that could be an example. Remember that?
Oh yeah. Now I'm gonna be able to pull his name. He's Scottish, and he does this marvelous sermon where he talks about
Like bad people getting into heaven, like
kind of no.
yeah.
The story is I'm trying to remember. He's at a church conference and he's addressing these people, and he said I had his name and I lost it again. But he says to them, if there's this thing about, if we do not preach the cross of Christ, if we do not preach the cross to ourselves every single day, well, we end up with salvation is by me, myself, and I. He says there's no other way. That every time we speak about salvation, it's got to be in the third person, because he says, and I really love this. So he says, if there's ever a chance, when I get there, when I get to the other side, I'm going to find the man on the cross. And I'm going to ask, what was that like? He says, well, what do you mean? He's well, think about this. Everyone's kind of looking at him like, what are you talking about? Because Jesus, when he's crucified, there's a criminal on his left and a criminal on his right. They are crucified also. And the one man says to Jesus, as they're deriding him, they're both just chewing on him about, nice job, look at you. You're you, and we're criminals, so we deserve for this. And I don't know what you did, but good night. And the one criminal says, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus looks at that man and says, truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. So what's it like for that guy? He dies, and he shows up in heaven. Now he comes up to the pearly gates, right, and the angel that's going to admit him, and he says, who are, how'd you get here? Well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, I don't know. You have to know how'd you go? I don't know how I know it. No, here's a man. He's never been baptized. He's never had communion. He's never been confirmation. He's never heard anything. He's never even been to church because it hadn't been invented yet. So he doesn't know. Well, how do you mean you don't know? He goes and gets the supervisor angel. The supervisor angel comes and says, I understand that you don't know. How'd you get here? Well, let's go straight to the doctrine of justification. I have no idea what you're talking about with doctrine of justification. Well, what's your understanding of the sovereignty of Scripture? What I don't know. Well, right? He just, and the crowd starts to laugh because and then he finally says, look, the supervisor says to this man who had been hanging on the cross to the side of Jesus, he goes, how did you get here? And the man says, I don't know, but the man on the cross The man on the cross said, he said, I could come. That's it. And then he says, that's everything. The man on the cross said, I could come. That's how I got here. That's how we all get there. And the answer is, it's because he did. He said, he taught, he gave, he loved. Therefore, I. All of that is what we call the theology of the cross. And what makes us giggle about this is that it is exactly the humor used that this man does. And I can't remember his name, but he's preaching still, I think, in Ohio. But he's Scottish descent. And I believe I don't remember what church it is. But it's funny. It's just flat out, no, it's not a joke. But it is absolutely holy hilarity to think that this man on the cross who lived, who knows what kind of life, who cares what kind of life, the man on the cross said he could come. Truly I tell you today, you will be with me in paradise. No, is it truly I tell you today, you will be with me in paradise? Or is it truly I tell you, comma, today you will be with me in paradise? We don't know. There's no punctuation in Greek, so we don't know what it is. But it's truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. So that's how you have to say it. And we don't know if I'm telling you right now you'll be with me someday, or that I'm telling you you'll be with me right now. We don't know, and we don't need to know. And that's the beauty of it. It is we have to sit back and just go, holy cow, because the man on the cross said, I could come. And there's nothing better than that. And it is hilariously wonderful.
Yeah.
Because the ultimate joke, we should say this, the ultimate joke is that God plays on sin, death, and the power of the devil. And we can sit back and just laugh at him because I have been claimed, you have been claimed by the power of God's love in the person of Jesus. And we can sit back and now laugh at the powers that be because they can't touch us.
Awesome. Is it so quickly before we wrap up, the best places to find humor within
Alistair Blair. Sorry. That's his name.
That was awesome.
Wow.
Just boom there. The best places to find humor, in your opinion?
Honestly, I think that there's a lot of places where you can look, like the Dry Bar is a great place to find clean humor. And I think if you're looking specifically for Christian humor, great places are, I think, stand-up comics that claim themselves to be Christian comics. And I think that there's a lot of those. I think when you're looking at the scriptures, I think that there's a lot of holy hilarity in, actually, ironically, Joshua, Judges, and Ruth, and maybe even Esther. Not maybe even Esther, especially Esther. Esther is the book in the Bible that never mentions God. Just that in and of itself is funny. And it has this story. It's a very serious story about the people of God becoming the people of God. It's a very serious story. But when Jewish festivals come around, there's some very specific festivals, and they recite these stories. They use noisemakers and clackers, and they use all kinds of things. And every time they mention one character, they boo and they hiss, and they Jews know how God is using humor in these very important stories. Very important. But again, humor is a tool to help us understand and relate with God within scriptures and in our own lives. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. This was fun.
This was fun.
Yeah. We might have to do a part 2. I know.
We might.
Good. Yeah.
What we should do is bring somebody in that is an actual comic.
That would be good.
That would be awesome. And then we could just sort of see where that goes. But I hope you've enjoyed this too. And I hope that you find ways that where your faith makes you laugh, and you can find fizz. How about that? Where you'll be able to find fizz in your life and in your faith. And yeah, there's so much dynamic. So there are so many dynamic parts to our faith and our life. It's just got to produce the fizz.
Yeah, and laugh. Just laugh.
Yep.
And another place to find good Christian humor, our YouTube page.
Yeah,
and social
exactly.
media. So subscribe, like, and follow. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and
Exactly.
Nextdoor. So Yeah, follow us, people. Come on.
Yeah,
we're
please.
we're fun.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for this one, man. This was a great idea,
Yeah.
great topic.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week. Go laugh, everyone.
Bye, everybody.